Imagine that like your professor from college is like, okay, like we're gonna have this big paper, like, but you have 9 months to write it. Just like, oh, okay, like I won't worry about it till like a month before. And then he decides like, you know what, about that paper, let's go ahead and turn it in tomorrow. Yeah, that's how I felt. Hey guys, so today's video is gonna be on my labor and delivery story. And this makeup look that I have on, there should already be a video put up on my channel with it. This is filmed that same day as that collaboration that I did, so I will link it down below. But yeah, today's video is on my labor and delivery story. If you want to hear about that, just keep watching. So I had my son almost exactly a month early to the day. I was due November 27th, 2018, and I gave birth October 28th, 2018. If you already watched my pregnancy story, then you heard a little bit about my experience with being pregnant and the complications that I had. Basically, in that video, I just, I'll link it down below also if you're interested in watching, but basically I just talked about how throughout my pregnancy, I would have bleeding basically throughout my whole pregnancy. There was like many complications that doctors didn't know what it was or what was going on. So we just kind of played it by ear. Just, you know, my regular checkups, if I felt good, then they didn't worry about it because I never like was in pain or anything. Up until September, the end of September, our state fair came and I went every single day to the fair, and I walked so much and I was so tired, and I just thought it was so much walking that was like putting pressure on my like belly and my legs. And then I started to feel what were contractions, and I didn't know until I had some bleeding again that looked a little bit more concerning. And so I went and got it checked out, and that's when the nurse told me that I was getting contractions 2 months before my due date. The day before I gave birth, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings with my sisters, me and my boyfriend did, and it was exactly a month to my due date. So we went October 27th. This just turned into a little mukbang. Sorry guys, I had to go grab me a little snack because I'm hungry. Anybody else think that the baked hot Cheetos are like spicier than the regular ones? Okay. Anyways, so yeah, the day before I went into labor. Actually, pretty much the day of, because we left Buffalo Wild Wings at like 1 or 2 a.m. We were there late. So, and you guys, like seriously, I didn't want to think about labor at all. I didn't want to like watch any delivery videos or nothing until like the last couple of weeks or the last month of my pregnancy. So then I started thinking like, okay, I have a month to prepare. I'm gonna start like, you know, thinking about labor and getting into that mentality that I'm gonna push a baby out, you know. And so yeah, we had nothing like prepared. I planned my baby shower to be 2 weeks after I gave birth. It's kind of late to have a baby shower like a couple days before your due date, you know. It's kind of like risky, like are they gonna get here earlier or what, you know. So we didn't have anything. I have a huge family, so I didn't start buying stuff because I know that like from the baby shower we're gonna get a whole bunch of stuff. So I was like, we'll be good, like we don't have to buy anything, you know. And so we didn't have anything at all, and no car seat, no nothing. So I mean, in my mind I had a month to prepare, so I was gonna start doing all of that month or whatever, the remaining like 4 weeks that I had. We get home, and at about like 3 a.m. we get to bed and just lay down, go to bed, and then I wake up because I wet the bed and I was super embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, like what the heck happened? Like I just wet the bed, like I thought I peed. And so I was like, wow, like so embarrassed. My boyfriend was like snoring next to me and I was like, how do I tell him that I just freaking did that, you know? And then I was like, why didn't I feel it? Like what the heck? Like that was like, honestly, like that's like one of my biggest fears was like whenever me and my boyfriend moved in together, I was like, oh my god, like I never ever want to have an accident in front of him. Like that'd be so embarrassing. But you know, like then again I was like, well, I'm pregnant, like whatever, he'll just have to deal with it. But then I got up and then I went to the restroom, and as I was walking I was like dripping water. And I was like, why can I not control this? You know, like I was so mad. I was like, why? Like, did I have to go that bad? Like, whenever I sat down, it started pouring again. And I was just like, what the heck is happening, you know? And then, like, I was just there in the bathroom just thinking of, like, excuses to tell my boyfriend. And it got so crazy. Like, I literally was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go pour me a bowl of cereal and I'm just gonna go like get back in bed, and then I'm gonna, whoops, like the bed's wet, like get up, I gotta change it. Like I don't want to think it's my water, but better safe than sorry. So this was like 5 a.m. whenever it happened, and so I called my older sister. I got no answer because everybody's asleep. I called my mom, no answer, and so I waited. And then around like 6, I called again. I called my mom and she was like if I was in any pain or anything, and I was like no. And she's like, call the hospital. And so I did, and I felt so dumb for calling the hospital. I was like, I don't know if my water broke or if I just had an accident, but I started, like water just started coming out and I could not control it. And they were like, well, we can't tell you if it was your water or not if you're not in here. Duh. Like I don't know if I wanted them to tell me over the phone like, oh, that wasn't your water. Like I don't know. I go back to the bed and I tell my boyfriend like, I don't know if I had an accident or if my water broke, but the bed's wet. And he was just like, okay. And I was like, really? Like wow. Like he didn't care. I got dressed and I looked so like, oh my god, like I just put on whatever. I didn't even brush my hair. I didn't even touch my hair. Like I sleep with a bun, like a really high bun, and like it was already messy, and so it was like hanging like right here. And so I was like, okay, like whatever, they're probably gonna tell me to go home, or they're probably gonna say it was just pee. And so I told my boyfriend to take me to the hospital. And on our way there I was like, can we go pick up my mom? And then like he's like, yeah. And so we still went and picked up my mom and then drove all the way back to the hospital. I just went in and then they checked me, and then the nurse was like, do you have any friends or family here? And I was like, yeah, like my mom and my boyfriend are out there. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna go get them. Can I get their names? Because you're fixing to have a baby. And I was just like, what the heck? And so she goes out there to get my boyfriend and my mom. And I was already at 3 centimeters whenever I got there. I got to the hospital at 8. I had waited like 3 hours past my water breaking to go, and I was at 3 centimeters. So they called my mom and my boyfriend and got me into the labor room. And from there it was just a long waiting game, guys. Not dilating at all, really. Like I stayed at a 3 till about like 12 p.m. That's whenever I had gotten up to a 4, and my contractions were so strong and nothing was like, I wasn't progressing or anything. And so they got me on Pitocin. We just had the doctor on call there, and he checked me, and from the start, like I wasn't nervous or anything. Like I was pretty calm. And from the start, whenever he came in and introduced himself, he was kind of just like, I don't know, he was like in some mood. Or maybe I was in some mood, I don't know. But I mean, my family and everyone there in the room agrees that he was a little, like, just, like so mean sounding. Like he was just like, oh, I'm here to check you, like lay down. And I was just like, okay. And he's like, checks me and whatever. And like my doctor, the one that I had gotten, like he's real good at like explaining stuff. Like, I'm gonna check you, like you're gonna feel pressure, this. And like I'm just a person that gets real nervous whenever I don't know what's going on like with my body. I like to be told and warned, like you're gonna feel this, I'm gonna do this, you know. And so he just like lay down and like would grab me and then just check me, and I was just like you know, like okay. They were fixing to get me on Pitocin. Him and a nurse came in, and I guess they were gonna start like insert the thing to get me like my contractions going. And they didn't even tell me. Like they did tell me that they were gonna start me on it, but they didn't tell me whenever they walked in. And like whatever, maybe I'm being dramatic, but they didn't say like, hey, we're here to do that, you know. He was just like lay down. And so I was like, okay, he's probably gonna check me. And then next thing you know, like I always just close my eyes whenever they're fixing to check me, because I'm like, I don't know, I just don't want to like you know. And so I was like, I had my eyes closed, and then I feel like 4 hands on me. So I'm like, okay, that's like 2 people touching me, like what are they doing? You know. And then like he just like he checks me, and then like whenever he puts his like hand in or whatever, like I just like I flinched, like that was it. Like I just went like that, like that was it. Like I wasn't gonna pull back. Oh, I'm sorry. Like I just flinched. I wasn't gonna pull back away. I wasn't gonna like run away from him or nothing. Like I just flinched. And I guess he thought that I was like trying to scoot back or something, and then he just like grabs me from my hip, like waist sort of, and he just like pulls me like really hard towards him, and like off the bed, like just pulled me. And then I just screamed, and I felt like something being inserted, and it was so much like, I don't know, I got so much anxiety from it, because like a whole bunch of stuff happened at once, like too many hands on me and everything, and like no explaining of nothing. And so I screamed really loud, and I started crying, and like it was just because I was really scared. And I just heard like water gush out, and like there was blood everywhere, like it like splashed all over the floor. And like, I still felt pretty good like with the contractions and everything, and I wanted to go as much as possible without the epidural at all. Like I really think like I could have pulled through, like I really do think so. But at that moment he just put me down, and I'm sorry guys, like I get emotional because like I know I could have pulled through, like I really do. And it sucks that it wasn't my doctor, because you know he was kind of mean, and I wanted to have a good experience. Like obviously it's scary, but I wanted to have a good experience with it. And so he just sets me back down, and then he's like, I suggest you get the epidural, because if you couldn't handle that, you're not going to handle what's coming. And so I just nodded, like I didn't like, you know, give him an attitude or nothing. I was just like, okay. And so like just agreeing with him, like, okay, like yeah, you're right, if I couldn't take that. Like he got me on the Pitocin, and then they bumped it up. I was still feeling good. Like I wasn't in like really like hard pain that I couldn't take. And then he just kept asking like, are you gonna get the epidural, are you gonna get it? And I was just like, no, like I want to see if I can. He's like, okay, because it gets to a point where it's too late. And I was just like, you know what, like he just keeps telling me, and like I'm just gonna do it, because he's gonna come back in and ask again. And I was feeling good. Like I was just laying there just thinking, and then I just grabbed the little buzzer and I buzzed the nurse, and I was just like, can you order me my epidural? We were there since 8, but my water broke at 5, so at this point it was like 2 whenever I got the epidural. Even brought in some paperwork like for us to sign in case we had to have him airlifted to the children's hospital, which is like 4 hours away from the city we stay at. And then also some other stuff in case we had to have him in the ICU. And so they had me sign that stuff, and then they were kind of telling me about like visitations and stuff like for NICU babies, and telling us how that's gonna go. Like basically that they were gonna like just check him as soon as he was born, and if he was good, he was gonna stay right there with me. If he wasn't, they'd let me hold him, let dad hold him, and then they would take him. 9 hours since my water had broken, and I was on Pitocin, and I was barely at a 5. Just like, you know what, like, I'll just get the epidural. I'll let them like crank the Pitocin up and get like my baby out, you know, like I want to get out of here too. And so I did. I got the epidural, but I did tell them like that I get really like nervous and anxious whenever I like am numb. Even like at the dentist, like if I can't feel my lip, like I'll literally like sit there and like pinch it like with my nails till like, I don't know, till I could feel pain or something. Like it really bothers me whenever I'm like numb. And like I said, like I want to know what's going on with my body, like, you know, I want to be able to feel it. And so I told him like, please, like, do not drug me up so much, like I'm gonna freak out, like I'm scared I'm gonna not gonna be able to push because I'm too busy like freaking out, like that I can't feel my legs or like my body. And so they didn't. They like just gave me enough dosage to just be like comfortable. So I was still feeling the contractions, but they weren't like super painful. They were like what they were whenever I got there to the hospital. And I was just seeing the little machine like with the, you know, things like super high. And I mean, they hurt, but there till 2:30 the nurse came in and she checked me, and I was at a 7, like in 30 minutes at a 7. And so she's like, oh, okay, like good, like you're at a 7, I'm gonna come back in 30 minutes, and if you're at a 9, like we're gonna start like pushing. And I was like, okay. And so yeah, she went back and she came at 3, and I was ready to push. And so they only let 4 people stay in, no, 3 people, yeah, 3 people stay in the delivery room with me while I was actually like pushing. So it was originally supposed to be my mom, my boyfriend's mom, and my boyfriend. But his mom got like, I don't know, she was kind of like, I guess she like built anxiety, like she didn't want to be there. Like she was gonna stay there, and then she was like, no, like I can't. She had his sister stay there. And so his sister and my mom were there, and him. And I was pushing, and it was just me and the nurse, me and my nurse that had been there like all day. It was just us pushing, and then she was gonna call the doctor whenever it was time for him to come in and actually like, you know, take my son out and everything. Even like, I was even laughing like whenever I was pushing, y'all. Like I could still feel the pain, but you know, if stuff is funny, I'ma laugh. Like my boyfriend was there like rocking back and forth, like, and then she's like, are you okay? And then he's like, yeah. She's like, do you need a chair? He's like, no. And she's like seriously, because we don't have time for that. She's like, if you like pass out, you're staying on the floor because we're gonna worry about the baby first. And so that was funny. And he was like, yeah, I need a chair. And so they brought him a chair, and I was there laughing and stuff. And then whenever I was almost done pushing, like whenever I was almost done pushing, his sister was like, oh my god, he has a lot of hair, look Robert, look. And then like he didn't want to go like look. He wasn't like looking like at all, because you know, like he's like the type that doesn't like to see blood and all of that. My mom like was there next to me, and she was holding my leg and stuff, and then she got my boyfriend to hold it, because then she was over there like nearly passing out. Like they got the chair for my boyfriend, and he was like fine after that. When my mom was over there like laid up on the couch, and I was just looking over at her, and I was like, oh my god. Like she was there like I was like cracking up. I was like, oh my god, mi ama, like she's over there in the freaking couch, like in dramatica. But yeah, like I mean, she was emotional. Like I'm the youngest one of the family, and so she's it like really got to her. The nurse was like dialing up the doctor, and I don't know if he was like somewhere else or what, if he was like with another patient, but she seemed really like frustrated because she's not the one that's supposed to, like, you know, deliver him. And she's like, okay, stop pushing. And she was just like keeping her hand there. Then the doctor walks in, and then the rest of his team come in too. And he literally just like rolls his little chair in front of me, and he like sits down, and then he's just like, okay, push. And then I push one more time, and he just like grabbed my son and just took him out. And I was like, oh wow, like that's it. Like, you know, the nurse did like everything, you know. She was there the whole time checking me, and she was super sweet, really like nice, and checking up on me, making sure like I was comfortable. I was like so freaking thankful for her, because she made the experience, like, she was the one that made it like good for me, because everything else I was just like come on, like I just want to have my baby and go home. Like that's it. Like I don't want to be here ever again. Like, I mean, I do want to have more kids, but I was just like, why are people so mean, you know? like I'm here like chilling, like I'm not like acting nervous or anything. I was there being kind, talking to them nicely. And he told my boyfriend, he's like, do you want to cut the cord? And he's like, yeah. And so you know, like, he's never cut a baby's cord. Like, I don't even know what that texture is like, you know, like cutting it. Like, I just assume that it's like soft, like jelly like, I don't know. But he's never cut a cord, and so he's there like cutting it. And I guess he told me that it's like kind of like hard, like rubbery, I don't know. But he like snips through like just halfway, and the doctor's like, if you're gonna cut it, you need to cut it right. Like, you need to like snip it hard. And then he's like, okay. And so like he finishes, and I was just like please leave, like please leave now. Like, they hand my baby to me, and I freaking cried so hard, y'all. Like, literally, like, I like couldn't breathe. Like, I was crying so hard, and I was like, wow, like I'm about to die. Like, I just had my son and I'm gonna go. I was like, is he good or no? Like, are y'all gonna leave him here? And at the same time, like, I felt kind of like selfish. Like, I was just like, wow, like, because I was like, dude, like, leave him here, like, please leave him here. But then I was like, no, like, what if something's wrong with him? Like, I should just like at least suggest to them, like, can y'all take him and make sure everything's okay? Like, he's a month early. But like, I don't know, I was like, oh my god, I'm being so selfish. Like, I just want him here, but I want him healthy, you know. And so they checked him, and then they put him in the little crib, and then the doctor and his team of nurses were like, okay, congratulations. And then they walked out, and I was just like, okay, so like he's staying, right? And like, yeah, he just stayed like right next to me. They did go in every 2 hours and poked his little foot to get his blood sugar. And then they did take him for a couple of hours to run like breathing tests. Then his baby shower turned into his welcome party. So 2 weeks after he was born, that's what would have been my baby shower. And we had just like a little welcome party. Like, my family all came, even though they had like, most of them had already seen him in the hospital. They came to like meet him, like hold him, and just, you know, hang out, eat some food, and brought me some gifts. I was so shocked whenever it was time to have him. It's like, imagine that like your professor from college is like, okay, like, we're gonna have this big paper, like, but you have 9 months to write it. Like, it's okay, you have time. And so you're okay, like, I won't worry about it till like a month before. And then he decides, you know what, about that paper, let's go ahead and turn it in tomorrow. Yeah, that's how I felt. I was just like, bro, like, I'm not ready. But yeah, I wasn't ready, but I was ready. I was so glad too that like I went ahead and met my little guy. He was 4 pounds and 11 ounces, super tiny, tiny, tiny baby. And I wish he was still small, but he's grown, and he's so much fun, and walking and talking, and he's super funny. Like, he's such a goofy kid. I love him so much, and I'm just so glad everything went the way it did, because everything was perfect to me. Like, seriously, the timing and everything is just perfect. But yeah, that's my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.